Abramovich, Abramovich, Abramovich.
They're using Abramovich as a scapegoat.
We are consistently targeted.
Want to go again? The Americans and the Saudis and that, they're all attacking, Yemen, aren't they? So what's the difference?
Chelsea are fucked. Sanctions imposed on Roman Abramovich mean no more sugar daddy for Chelsea. We're at Stamford Bridge to find out what their fans think of the club's current ownership crisis.
Well, I think it's a bit unfair on the club because the government have taken taxes and revenue for 19 years. They've known the situation for 19 years, but now because there's a war, they're punishing Chelsea and punishing Abramovich. Abramovich has not been proven to be doing anything wrong, but they still sanction the club, so we can't go and watch our team that we've supported for 30 years.
That's a big con, that is, because this government are hypocritical because they are still funding this war by buying oil and gas from Russia, and yet they're using Abramovich as a scapegoat, and they forget all the good things that he's done, not only for the club, but for charities as well.
And they've taken it all away. But Boris Johnson was okay to take the club and the hotel to use for the NHS when there was a COVID crisis, yeah? But now Abramovich's money's no good. But it was okay then when he was giving Chelsea Football Club to the NHS for free, yeah?
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of unfair. I mean, he was trying to sell the club, so it's like he's doing all he can. There's not too much he can do besides that.
Why do you think he was trying to sell the club?
I think he was just trying to sell the club because he knew this was coming, so he just wanted to stop this from happening, and they didn't get the chance to do that.
I think the sanctions are fair. Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. There should be sanctions imposed. I don't think it's fair, some of the things that are being pushed against the club, though. I think there's a lot of measures being taken, like how much to travel away and club shop and all the small things that are affecting real people who are employed by the club. So it's disappointing.
We don't know what's happened with Roman, apart from the fact he got his proceeds from Yeltsin and not Putin. As a football club owner, and that's the only way I can speak, he's been the absolute best football owner anyone could ever wish for.
I wasn't surprised, but at the same time, they haven't really given him a chance, have they? So whatever he was going to do, positive or negative, he was always going to get punished for it because of the assumption that he was close with Putin. So Boris said he doesn't have any, he's not going to do anything unless they have concrete evidence. They don't have concrete evidence, but they've done it anyway. So that sums it up, really. Well, it's not just an Abramovich thing, it's a Chelsea thing. We are consistently targeted and left behind in the dust, and we have to do things the hard way, not just on the pitch with decisions by referees, off the pitch as well, and obviously with this Abramovich situation, it's not going to get any better, but we're used to it.
I think it's very unfair. Mr. Abramovich seems a really nice man, and I'm sure he's got family.
Don't forget, Roman Abramovich isn't even really Russian. His grandparents on his mother's side are Ukrainian, and on his father's side are Belarusian Jewish. So why would he want this war? He wouldn't want this war, but it's obvious he's in fear of Putin, what he would do.
And he must have family in Russia that he's protecting.
But he's easy to blame,
yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
The fact that the government are imposing these sanctions, you've just mentioned Boris Johnson there, will this affect how you vote in future?
Oh, definitely, 100%. But he's a clown anyway, isn't he? We all know he's a clown. And at the end of the day, we don't hear about his parties anymore because everything you see on the media now is either the war or Chelsea. You don't hear about the parties no more because there's more important things going on. It's all been brushed under the carpet.
Personally, I don't trust everything the government says after their lockdown parties and everything. So I want to see stone cold evidence that he is involved with Putin. When I see that, he should be in prison, in my opinion. He shouldn't just be getting sanctions because what he's done, losing so many lives in Ukraine, is incredibly serious. But if it's not proven, I'm still going to continue to back my owner because without him, we would have still been a top four chasing club.
I think it's unfair on Chelsea Football Club, yeah. Yeah, of course I do. And where's this proof of what connections he had with Putin? What has he done? And if whatever he has done, tell us what he's done.
My dad actually sent me a video last night, all the decisions that go against Chelsea. It just reminds me that we are consistently targeted.
And what did you make of in recent matches when Chelsea fans sang Roman Abramovich's name during the minutes of applause for Ukraine?
Well, it's kind of a little during the whole Ukraine thing, but I agree with them chanting his name and supporting him and backing him. Maybe a different time, but I agree with chanting his name and everything.
Man City and Newcastle, they could be the next ones who have problems. But there again, if you go through every billionaire who owns a football club, I bet you 9 times out of 10 is a shady deal. Everyone's got a bit of a past. But
I mean, on that note, how does Roman Abramovich become a billionaire at the age of 30, you know?
Well, we don't know what the situation, if he was in the right place at the right time.
He's from Russia, isn't he? So they've invaded the Ukraine, which is totally out of order. Yeah, I think it's right what the government have done, yeah.
And obviously Newcastle were recently taken over by the Saudi investment fund.
Amanda Staveley and...
Is your take on that ownership?
I think it's fantastic for the club, for the city.
What do you make of the comparison between the two and people saying that the Saudis shouldn't have been allowed to buy Newcastle?
It was just a lot of sour grapes from a lot of other clubs. They were just jealous.
And Chelsea Football Club are the ones who are suffering here, and the fans and the staff that work at Chelsea Football Club. Yeah, I do think that.
Do you think that if the government are going to sanction Abramovich like this, maybe they should do so with other football club owners whose money is...
Absolutely. And more so, why hasn't it even been discussed? There's shocking things going on in the world that own parts of the world that have football club owners in the Premier League. Not even discussed.
What do you make of the sponsors dropping out? Hyundai and...
I don't really care, to be honest with you. 3 have never been my favourite sponsor. I do think they're very ugly on the kit, to be honest with you. Hyundai, quite irrelevant in my opinion in terms of Chelsea. So we can easily get other sponsors. So many clubs, if we get a new owner in, we'll see our club as world champions and want to sponsor us. So 3 can go away, as long as we have Trivago, Hotel Trivago, so it's all good.
Yeah, there is a double standard. And one thing that should be stressed, because it's never asked, Chelsea Football Club and supporters, of course they stand with Ukraine. It's shocking what's going on in 2022 as a country and the poor people that are struggling. And the whole of the world could do more to help what's going on in Ukraine, but it's Chelsea that seem to be suffering.
On that note, what did you make of the Chelsea fans who were singing Abramovich's name during that moment of applause for the people of Ukraine?
Well, my take on it is
Hypocrites.
my take on it was the fact that Chelsea supporters sang after the minutes applause for Ukraine, because they do support the people of Ukraine, but they also want to thank Roman Abramovich for being the best football club owner ever.
Roman, do you want to borrow some money?
Because of the assumption that one man is doing something wrong, a whole football club is being affected. And it's not just a club, as we know, it's a community. There's a lot of people relying on this, mental health. You can't go to games. It's much bigger than it seems.
Personally, I will not be wearing a Chelsea shirt with 3 on it ever again. I don't know if you noticed, wearing Ralph Lauren today. No 3 on my shirt, will not be wearing that ever again. So.
Do you think Roman shouldn't be sanctioned at all, or just that it shouldn't affect Chelsea fans?
Well, it shouldn't affect Chelsea fans at all. Don't get me wrong, we know what he's doing is wrong. We all know it's wrong what he's doing, but it shouldn't affect our club.
Will it affect how you vote in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I never would have voted for this government anyway. I think it's... I think other stuff has proved that they're unfit to govern, but this adds to it. But yeah, hopefully it will persuade a lot of voters, away from the Tory government.
He's made us what we are, because without his money we would have been nothing.
There are other clubs with questionable ownerships, one of whom being Newcastle, today's opponents.
Yep.
What did you make of their takeover?
Oh, look, Newcastle fans are amazing. They've travelled everywhere with no money. They've gone somewhere on a Tuesday night, took off their tops, bare-chested and sung for their team. They deserve something now, don't they? They've been nowhere for a long time.
But obviously people criticise the fact that it was the Saudi investment fund, which is effectively the Saudi government.
Yeah, actually, at the end of the day, it's no different to Abramovich. What's going on, the Americans and the Saudis and that, they're all attacking, Yemen, aren't they? So what's the difference?
What I don't get is they knew where his money come from when they let him in the country, didn't they? They knew where his money was coming from when they let him in the country, but they didn't worry about it then, did they?
I don't think the government can run a football club, so they need to offload it as soon as possible. And they should make clear that whatever proceeds do go to this with the sale of Chelsea Football Club will go to the victims of Ukraine, Because Roman did state that.
He made it quite ambiguous, though, didn't he?
Well, you can make a play on words and say that he said the victims of the war. Who are the victims of the war? It's going to be the people of Ukraine. So I think that's a play on words.
I think it's sad for the club, but I don't think it's unfair on him. It makes you think, is there a darker secret to come out about Abramovich, how he made his money in Russia, and obviously what the Russians are doing to Ukrainians at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see the news next couple of weeks and see what comes out. Shady deals, money laundering, all that stuff. But for the club as a whole, it's a shame. You know, we brought our son up today as a birthday treat, and we only just got the tickets before they stopped selling them. It's mad, do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
How have you felt about his ownership over the last 19 years more generally?
I think as an owner, he's been fantastic. He's just stepped in the background, he's put his hand in his pocket when he's needed to, he's bought the players, he's done everything right. But it's almost like and this is it's like a war crimes thing. He's a fantastic guy, and all of a sudden everyone goes, he did what? How?
I think there's a lot of things that haven't been said. I think the fact that Roman Abramovich himself is part Ukrainian hasn't been mentioned. I think there's been a lack of detail about why he's on the British government's hit list. There's no details have come out.
If it's in football, it should have been stopped before Abramovich come in. You know, and Newcastle and all the likes of them and Man City and, you know, they've all got their money from somewhere, ain't they? You don't wake up with billions of pounds. I watched a documentary on Abramovich from his first wife. And when he had his kid with his first wife, they didn't even have enough money for nappies, and they were renting a one-bedroom flat. And they couldn't buy nappies because they didn't have no money. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, he divorces her, he's a billionaire. Answers your question, doesn't it?